On March 31st, 1927, Cesar Chavez was born on a farm in Yuma, Arizona. During the Great Depression, Cesar Chavez's family lost their farm and were forced into migrant labor. At 17 years old, Cesar Chavez joined the military. Cesar Chavez disliked his 2 years in the military because of the regimentation and discrimination he faced as a Mexican. In 1948, Cesar Chavez married Helena Fabela and had 8 children. Soon after, they joined the Community Service Association, also known as CSO. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy offered Cesar Chavez the job of being head for the Peace Corps for part of Latin Americans, but Cesar Chavez declined in order to keep helping migrant workers. After declining the job opportunity, Chavez decided to create a group of his own called the United Farm Workers, or UFW. In the UFW, Filipinos, Latinos, and Hispanics joined together to discuss the unfair treatment immigrants were receiving outside and during work. Some of the issues that UFW was able to address included inhumane conditions for migrant workers, such as 12-hour working days without near bathrooms or drinking water. Also, migrant children didn't get proper education. In fact, Cesar Chavez went to about 38 schools before 8th grade. Even though migrant workers weren't treated with the respect they deserved, they wouldn't complain. In fact, we're thankful just to be able to work in the United States of America. 1965 through 1970, Cesar Chavez performed one of his most famous protests, the Delano Grape Strike.
The 1960s were a time of enormous civil unrest. Demonstrations, face-offs, and riots characterized the political climate as the nation coiled in tension. In California, a man named Cesar Chavez led a strike of migrant farm workers demanding higher wages and better working conditions. The strike was part of the civil rights movement that addressed the needs of farm workers. It was a turning point in America's history. He envisioned equality and social change, not just for farm workers, but for all people. A leader of people who didn't have a voice. He would grow to become one of the most respected civil rights leaders of the 20th century.
Then, Cesar Chavez led a 300-mile protest from Delano to Sacramento. In 1968, Cesar Chavez took his first fast for 25 days to affirm social commitment. Robert Kennedy and Cesar Chavez became very good friends when they met in 1968. As time passed, Robert Kennedy became Chavez's advocate, and as Senator of New York, Kennedy spread Chavez's legacy, helping him succeed. His second fast was in 1972 to enforce nonviolence. It lasted 25 days. The fight is never about grapes or lettuce. It is always about people. Cesar Chavez. In 1975, about 17 million Americans refused to buy grapes, so Governor Jerry Brown was forced to pass the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, or ALRA. After the ALRA passed, migrant worker wages soared. Robert Kennedy also started a medical plan for migrant workers called the California Purchasers Healthcare Coalition, or CPHCC. You are never strong enough that you don't need help. Cesar Chavez. Tens of thousands of migrant workers were soon working under UFW contracts in the early 1980s. Those farmers were given increasing wages, family health coverage, and pension benefits. In 1988, Cesar Chavez performed his third and final fast to highlight harmful pesticides exposed to migrant workers and their children. It lasted 36 days. On April 23, 1993, Cesar Chavez died during his sleep. People believed his third fast damaged his health permanently and influenced his death. Most people think that Cesar Chavez affected everyone in a positive way. However, some people didn't agree at first on what he was doing. How did Cesar Chavez's movement affect you and your family's lifestyle?
I was a very fortunate person born to a family that came from, my father that came from Mexico. And when he came over, he came contracted by the United States government. So he was here legally to work out in the fields. He met my mother that was born here in the United States, in La Puente, California. And in time, maybe within a year or a year and a half, they got married. And my mother, being an American citizen, was able to fix his legal papers to work here. Being legal, my father always had aspirations of not working out in the fields, but doing something better for his family. And so he worked hard and bought a truck and then another truck and worked from the fields, picking up the grapes, the cantaloupes, watermelons, whatever was out there in the fields, to take them to the packing sheds. When I grew up, my father had trucks, and at that time, maybe I was around 18, 19 years old. That's when Cesar Chavez began his movement. And it affected me in a strange way because I'm from a Mexican family, but it affected me contrary to what the labor workers were affected. In my case, I went out to the field with my truck to pick up the grapes or the cantaloupes or whatever we were the season fruit, and there was the protesting, Chavez protesting, and they wouldn't let anybody go inside to pick up the grapes or the cantaloupes. So it affected me that I wasn't able to make any money because we couldn't pick the fruits. You know, the people weren't working. Chavez wanted something better for them and held them back, you know, from working. So it affected me contrary. In that case, that's how it affected us.
In your opinion, did all the movements Chavez accomplished impact California in a positive or negative way?
Oh, I can tell you that in a positive way. In the time when we started working, that we worked in our trucks from the fields and the people were picking grapes and melons and watermelons and whatever, they didn't have any water to drink. They would have to bring their own water. Now they have special trucks with water to drink. And then now they have breaks every 10, 15 minutes when they're working out there at the 100-degree temperatures. They give them breaks so that before, no breaks, no water, no restrooms either. They would have to go and hide behind trees or whatever to take care of their necessities. And now there's restrooms and everything. Now they're treated like persons that do good for California.
In 1994, the Cesar Chavez holiday was officially signed into bill as March 31st by Governor Pete Wilson. 1990 through 2015, farm workers' pay soars. Issues in migration are still affecting our country today. In 2012, President Obama proposed a viable compromise through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. However, the fight is still on. Eric, Anthony, and Andres Chavez are all Cesar Chavez's grandchildren that carry on his legacy by fighting for what is right.